November 15th Sunday School, and we're on the steps of Leander United Methodist Church. I thought it might be nice to film from here today because on November 15th, 2020, Leander United Methodist Church is 160 years old. Can you imagine being that old? Let's see if we can count by tens to 160. 10, 20, 30, count with me, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, and 150, 160. Can you imagine being that old? Well, Leander United Methodist Church started in the year 1860. 1860. That was 160 years ago. But did you know this sanctuary that we have with the steeple and all the lovely stained glass windows was not on this place right here back in 1860. Back in 1860, a group of people just got together to form a Methodist church. And it was over off of Baghdad Road in the community of Baghdad. It wasn't even in the town of Leander. And they worshiped there for a while. And finally in 1879, 19 years ago, they built this sanctuary building. So you may be wondering, how in the world is this sanctuary here if it was miles away in Baghdad? Well, let me just tell you what happened. In 1900, the railroad was being built through this part of Texas. And they went to the community of Baghdad and said they wanted to build the railroad through their town of Baghdad. The people of Baghdad said, no, we don't want your old railroad. So the railroad came to a very small, much smaller community of Leander, and the railroad was built through the town of Leander. You may cross those railroad tracks as you're driving up 183 now. So what happened is, because the railroad moved, everybody moved from Baghdad to Leander, and then on April 15th, 1901, the people of this church hitched up this building to a team of mules and put it on logs and rolled it from Baghdad all the way to here. Can you imagine that? Well, you may be wondering also, well, what makes a church? Well, I want to read you a passage from Ephesians. And it's from Ephesians chapter 2, starting in verse 20, in about verse 20. God is building a home. He's using us, irrespective of how we got here, in what he is building. He used the apostles and the prophets for the foundation. That means the part of it's built on. And now he's using you, fitting you in brick by brick, stone by stone, with Jesus Christ as the cornerstone that holds all the parts together. We see it taking shape day after day. A holy temple built by God, all of us built into it, a temple in which God is quite at home. Because you know, the church is not a building. In truth, the church is the people. In fact, it reminds me of one of my favorite songs. Sing along with me if you can. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church together. All who follow Jesus all around the world. Yes, we're the church together. The church is not a building. The church is not a steeple. The church is not a resting place. The church is the people. I am the church. You are the church. We are the church together. All who follow Jesus all around the world. Yes, we're the church together. I know Miss Renee doesn't sing very on tune, but I do like to sing. So, I'm going to tell you about the very first time I came to this place. And even though the building is very special to me and the windows are beautiful, it's the people that I find here is what makes this church my home. It was Christmas Eve in 1989. Mr. Hardy and I had just bought our house a few months earlier in Cedar Park. We didn't have any kids yet, and Hardy's mom, Pat, and his grandma, Mama Merle, were coming to spend Christmas in our new house. Well, I decided we had to find somewhere to go to Christmas Eve service, and I found this. And that I had driven around and I looked in the phone book. This was before the internet, really. You didn't look people up on web pages. You had to look in the phone book. You may not even know what that is, but ask your parents. They might know what it is. But we came here, and it was the most special Christmas Eve service I'd ever had. I had on my red corduroy Christmas dress, and I had Mr. Hardy on my side, and my mother-in-law Pat, and her mother, Mama Merle. And in the end of the service, we all got in a big circle around the pews and held our candles up and sang Silent Night. But it wasn't the building that made me feel warm here. It was the people. And some of the people I remember that aren't even here anymore are Maveny Bread Allen. She hugged me every time I walked through that door and said, "We're so glad you're here." I also think of Wanda and Darwin Lindsay. Darwin many times played Moses and other characters for the kids. And this was way before y'all's time, so you may not remember it. And his wife, Wanda, she loved crochets, and we loved crocheting. And I have many things that she crocheted, including a red Afghan that I just love. And for some reason, we took to always sitting right behind them during worship. And especially my younger daughter, Heather, she always liked dolls and brought her dolls with her to church. And Miss Lindsay was always talking to Heather about her dolls and everything. So what I want you to remember that even though the place is special, it's the people that make the church. In fact, I remember some people that were from before I was ever even here. The Doras. They were important in this church in the early part of the 1900s. In fact, that's who our fellowship hall is named after. And I also think of Leo Unger. This was in the 80s, and he was actually still at this church when we first started coming, but it was through his work in a little rock building over there on that grass that Hill Country Community Ministries was started. He recognized that there was a need for food and clothing for people in this community, and he found a way to help provide that, and it still remains a way for people to get food and clothing. So, what I want you to remember is that even though we love the building, It's the people that make the church. And I really hope that 50 years from now, that you'll find me still sitting here reading stories to kids. All right. Have a great weekend, and don't forget to check out the activities. Sadie, come on, say goodbye to the kids. Well, Sadie's off smelling the bushes right now. And say happy birthday to Leander United Methodist Church. Bye, I love y'all.